Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to Watchbox, and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email me, tmosso@thewatchbox.com. It's in the description below. It is your purchase and pricing email question line for buying this or any watch you see on any Watchbox platform. Please reach out to me directly. Email tmosso@thewatchbox.com for pricing. Today, we're discussing a 5-piece limited edition from 2020 based on a model originally launched in 2019. This is the Armin Strom Gravity Equal Force, the limited edition 5th anniversary. And the limited edition is a UK dealer of boutique models and brands. This is celebrating 5 years of the limited edition in the form of the Gravity Equal Force. So the watch is 41 millimeters in diameter, principally in steel, though with a rose gold crown. It's 12.9 millimeters thick. It's 48 millimeters from lug tip to lug tip with a 20 millimeter spacing between the lugs. Zoom out a little bit. We'll throw it on my wrist. My wrist is 16 centimeters in circumference. The watch wears well. It's not thick, and it does have a sloped bezel, so it should slip under a cuff easy enough. The lugs are fairly substantial, so I would recommend this watch for a wrist of 15 centimeters circumference or larger. And once again, my wrist is 16. The strap is high grade, and as you can see, it is an Armin Strom factory strap. It's actually rubber lined on the underside, which is nice because it's supple against the skin, and it also protects the leather of the strap from the moisture, sweat, heat, and grit of the wrist. The leather is thick. They're generous with it. It's a large, matte black symmetrical scale. Whenever you have large symmetrical scale alligator leather, you're looking at a really expensive, high-quality cut, and that's what we have here. You can see the sheer cut and profile showing just how much leather you're getting, and then a monotone black stitch. We have the Armin Strom buckle, which is polished as well as satinated and features the Armin Strom logo. You'll find it again on the rose gold crown. And then the case has strong lines. You can see the lugs are stepped out pretty dramatically from the case band with vertical satin finish on the case as well as the lug. You can also see the case is a little bit unconventional. It's sort of inverse conical as it has the opposite of tumble home. It flares from the base up to the bezel. The bezel has a vertical lip and then a conical profile, and you can see it's polished. A little visual styling trick used. You can see that the lug hoods ride up a little bit up the side of the bezel to prevent them from being flatted out or unduly compressed. So by sharing some of that vertical space, we have a more fully formed, attractive lug. There's a little chin on the bottom of Armin Strom watches, and as it's been explained to me by the people who own and run the company, this is there for customization if you wanted initials or a year or something along those lines. That's what that chin is for. The dial here is a special edition made by Kari Voutilainen, both the dial blank itself, which is made of sterling silver, and then you can see that there's a cap on the base plate, which has a 12-sector guilloche wave, and that is evident in dark gray below the works of the watch and below the dial proper, which features a combination of rose gold printing, rose gold skeletonized hands, and then a matte black base with polished gold chapter rings around it. It's very attractive. There's a lot that's attractive. We'll start at the top. So we talked about the Kari dial and the cap of the base plate with guilloche. Now let's talk about the bridges. Up at the top, you've got a pawl-based winding system, and it's a micro rotor. So you can see the micro rotor in action. It energizes a 72-hour power reserve. Driving down, you can see that we have a beautifully internally beveled wheel that looks like it might be used for transmission of power, but it's actually part of the motion works that is used to set the watch. Now, if you look very carefully, I'll do my best to show it, the interior of this wheel, the spokes and the inner circumference, have been beveled and mirror beveled, and that's deeply impressive. You can also see that we have no shortage of interior angles. Look at these bridges. Each one of them features no fewer than 2 separate interior angles where bevels or chamfers meet in a sharp crease. That sharp crease is difficult to achieve, and a lot of Geneva hallmark movements don't even have one of these. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 just on the dial side. There were 2 variants of the watch. This one includes the silvered bridges, but with rose gold screws fixing them in place. So this is one of the 2 variants. This one with the silvered bridges that are rhodium coated, and then they have the rose gold screws fixing them in place. You can also see the jewel sinks have internal mirrored beveling, which is quite attractive. And then we have a barrel. Now this is unusual because first of all, you can see, I'll do my best to make this visible. There's 3 things going on. First, you could see a power reserve indicator that sits on top of the barrel. Below that, you can see a Maltese cross-like wheel that acts as a stop works. The reason this is called the equal force is because Armin Strom has used a particularly flat hairspring curve. So, not hairspring, pardon me, mainspring curve. The curvature of the torque from the mainspring from just after it starts to just before it stops, it's incredibly flat. And so by, I would say calibrating the stop works to cut off the very beginning of the mainspring's power curve and the very end of its power curve, you wind up with a torque delivery that is almost completely flat, almost entirely flat over 72 hours. That's why this is called the equal force. Though it doesn't use a fusee or a differential or a remontoir, it uses the flat center section of a power reserve of 72 hours to create equal force to the escapement. So this helps to simplify the watch by removing the bulk, complexity, and expense of those other systems, and to achieve it using more or less a conventional mainspring that's been very carefully calibrated. Now there's one more thing going, which is that the arbor of the barrel drives the train. So normally the toothed edge of a barrel drives the drivetrain, and the arbor driving the train is rarely used on modern watches. It's what's known as a motor barrel. And long ago, in the pocket watch era, motor barrels were used to protect the escapement in the drivetrain from the shock of a mainspring that shatters, that snaps. It was more common in the past than it is today. But the motor barrel here has been chosen for historical and artisanal reasons by Armin Strom, but they also insist that in this application it gives a more even application of torque and more stability, which may be the case, but historically the purpose of a motor barrel was to protect against mainspring snaps. Now you can see here we have a balance that operates at an unusual oscillation rate, though we're seeing more and more watches from more brands operating at this 25,200 vibrations per hour. Now you can see it has a flat hairspring and it's free sprung with variable inertia bolts on the balance, so very, very shock tolerant and easy to adjust precisely. These free sprung architectures always are. It says adjusted in all positions. I take that to mean the chronometer standard of 5 or the absolute standard of 6. Both very, very good. 28 joules, and of course we have a large open airy case back that's filled by this movement. You can see that there's a combination of deeply grooved Côte de Genève across these bridges as well as mirrored anglage on their edge, and the quality of the anglage is very good. Undoubtedly starting with some sort of a file that's run by a machine, but then finished with a handheld milling tool. The rounded finish is indicative of hand finish in the final step. And we have more of those interior angles inside the balance cock. You can also see all of the screw heads have been black polished, and this is individually numbered. This is number 1 of 5. There's media blasting and satination on the plate in the center, and then we have satination across the wheels with engine turning on the base plate. It's a very attractive watch and water resistant down to 30 meters. Reach out to Team Mosso at thewatchbox.com for purchase and pricing details of this Armin Strom Gravity Equal Force, the limited edition 5th anniversary.